time data. So I'll say your book, but not you just release your book.
Yeah,
That's
fine, yeah.
Because good, we're recording. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm joined today by Sarah Furness, which I'm really happy about. Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
To be here.
Lovely to have you, as always. So, let me crack straight on.
Okay.
So the book, unitasking.
Yes.
Tell me.
Well, unitasking. So it's something that I talk about a lot, and people that have heard me talk about it will probably remember the phrase "fly the aircraft." So essentially, we think we can have our focus in lots of different places, but generally our performance goes down. This is something I learned when I first crashed my first helicopter.
Yeah.
So I talk about this a lot, and generally the concept people can get on board with, but putting into practice is what people find hard because real life gets in the way, we get distracted, people want our time. So I realised that there was some deeper work I could do and some more support I could offer around the concept. So started to run workshops, and then on the back of that workshop I wrote a book which is really a handrail to implement unitasking in the workplace.
And how does unitasking sit with modern society, where we're all talking about how we've got to be multi-skilled, multifaceted, have multiple different types of jobs? Are you going against the norm, and do you get a lot of reaction against it?
Sometimes I do, and I have reflected and gone, am I definitely kind of on the right path here? And I guess there's a couple of ways I could answer that. First of all, I'm not here to say you've got to do it my way. I'm sharing information that, this is what works for me, and I think this would be of value to you. So I'm going to share this. That's the cop-out answer. The multifaceted thing is absolutely right. And also, like neurodiversity, we're paying much more attention to this. So people's brains work differently, and we understand that better now. A lot of people say, well, I've got ADHD, so I find it really hard to focus on one thing. So it's causing me more stress to try to do this. So it's definitely an evolving thing. The research I've done, for example, on ADHD, which is mostly anecdotal, suggests that it is still possible to unitask, but you might need to adapt it. So a lot of people with ADHD find it's helpful to have a hook because they get very easily distracted. If they've got a hook to bring them back on, they can kind of just keep doing that. And over time, they can sort of train themselves to be able to do that, or they can make the most of periods of hyperfocus. So it's a tool, and what you do with it is absolutely open for interpretation. And I definitely don't think that there's one way to apply unitasking.
Cool. So let me take you back, and you mentioned kind of the first time you crashed the egg.
Yes.
Yeah. But was that the light bulb moment over I need to change my ways, I need to change how I think, what I do, or was it something which kind of you were trained within the military to do it, but maybe you didn't take as much notice of it as you should have done?
Absolutely the second one. I took no notice. In fact, I think I was 24. Now, I don't know if you remember what it was like when I was 24, a couple of years ago, I'm sure, Nick. But I thought I was invincible. I thought, well, it's obviously not my time. So I can't say I was overly reflective at the time. It was actually when I left the Air Force and went into coaching. And that in itself is an interesting story because I thought I was going to be coaching mindfulness and well-being. And I'd studied mindfulness, and actually one of my very first clients was a GB boxer, and he said, can you teach me about performance under pressure? And I was thinking, what am I going to be able to teach him about this? I'm a mindfulness coach. And he said, but you've crashed helicopters, you've been shot at, you must know this stuff. And that's what made me join the dots and go, I do know how to do this, but I've never questioned why I can. But because I've now gone and studied the mind and mindfulness and how to work with the brain, I was able to join the dots a bit and go, that's why we were able to do that. So when you say fly the aircraft, what you're really saying is follow your breath. It's exactly the same instruction.
So and I'm interested, it's something I've always been interested in the concept of we don't really realise what we know until it's pointed out to us.
Absolutely.
That, I suppose, lack of self-awareness, is that an age thing, a maturity thing, or is it just we as humans, we don't really appreciate ourselves enough until someone points out to us?
Yeah, I'm sure I've seen something somewhere about the phases that we go through, and I think what people often refer to as the midlife crisis is actually when we become a bit more aware of the outside world and values and all that kind of stuff. So there probably is something in the sort of evolution of the brain. But yeah, and also in terms of learning, you might have heard of the stages of learning. You sort of start off at unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. You get to conscious incompetence, so you now know what you don't know, so you work on it. Then you get to conscious competence, so you can do it, but you still have to work at it. And then you get to unconscious competence, so you can do it, and you don't know why you can do it. And that's the phase where you really want to be able to sort of pick it apart and go, why can I do this? And how can I help everyone else get on that journey and up that ladder? Because people will look at you and go, they can just do it. But actually, that's not true at all. So it does take that kind of willingness to sort of pick it all apart and go back to where you came from, I think.
So I'm reflecting on that, which isn't great, but I really enjoyed it. Let me ask you about you and your speaking.
Yeah.
To some extent, from my perspective, you exploded onto the circuit, kind of, and really enjoyed watching. How did you get into it? And for you, what surprised you about the industry, and what developed the industry for you?
So, it started off with coaching, and I definitely started with that, with the mindfulness wellbeing coaching was what I thought I was going to do. And I thought I was going to cure the world of all suffering. This was my plan, okay? I know, I mean, you might as well...
Still time.
Might as well aim high. And actually, it was a guy called John Peters, you might have heard of, who said, he's been really great at mentoring me, and he kind of said, have you thought about getting on the speaking circuit, Sarah? And I'd been, teaching and delivering and facilitating for, a good number of years by that point. So I was reasonably comfortable public speaking. So I thought, yeah, okay, I'll give it a go. I didn't have any clients back then, so I just put an event on and invited prospects to come and hear me speak. And I invited John Peters and Mandy Hickson to come and hear me talk. And I was so sure that I was brilliant at this point. Sort of went for some drinks after and went, come on then, John, Mandy, what did you think? And I thought they were going to say, I'm retiring today, Sarah. And they went, a few points. And this is when I realised that being able to string sentences together and speak in front of a group of people is very different from being a keynote speaker. Because I was still in my own head, I was making it about me. John and Amanda, like, what's in it for them? Why should the audience care? And how are you translating your experience? And so I realised there's a real art and a science to keynote speaking, and I kind of fell in love with the craft, and then wanted to learn how to get better.
And now, and where do you think you are on that journey now?
Definitely still evolving, definitely work in progress. And I think what I really enjoy is solving a problem for people. And I don't mean in terms of do A, I mean encouraging people or showing people they can think differently about a problem. So it sort of opens up a whole different way of thinking. That's amazing. I love that.
And do you think audiences now, I suppose maybe when you start or whatever, would be more receptive to that, or are we just naturally receptive to someone helping us see what we...
That's a great question. I mean, I don't think I'm very receptive to being helped.
Okay.
It's forced on me. So I think, again, that's the kind of the real privilege and the challenge of being a speaker is how do you, you share a secret, you don't tell people what to do. So I think sort of learning how to, almost plant an idea that you think is going to help people, but how do you do that without getting the resistance? Or if it is resistance, might it be the right amount of resistance to get people engaging with it? So all of that is just so fascinating. It becomes a study in human behaviour, and I've learned so much about people from speaking to people and from engaging with them afterwards. So I find it really rewarding.
Fascinating. Again, fascinating. One last thing was a change of subject, but kind of something I wanted to address. Kind of, you obviously came from a world of military, like very much an area which is seen as a man's world, and you're not a man.
Mass spotted.
Where are we, and how receptive are we in the workplace, kind of, and from your background, to equality? Are we really getting there, or is it a lot of lip service?
So, a phenomenal question, which I could spend all day answering. So let me summarise. I think the military was pretty good. And I probably didn't realise how good it was until I stepped out. And then I realised that there are other industries that's not the experience that women have. And I think, really? Because I kind of think, why are we still talking about this? Like, it's fine. I got the same pay. It was the same selection process. It was the same.
You're being shot out like everyone
Yeah,
else.
it's been, exactly. Men take equal amounts of paternity leave now. So there's so much kind of equality. Now, don't get me wrong, you're always going to encounter unconscious bias wherever you go. But I think I realise now that it was much better than it is in other industries. One of the things that I would like to offer on this subject is it's very easy to think it must be more difficult for me because I'm a minority. And of course there will be. But A, we don't really know how difficult it is for anyone else because we're not in their head. And B, being different might be an advantage. So, for example, women, rightly or wrongly, often are assumed to have higher emotional intelligence. And today's leader is expected to be emotionally intelligent. So actually, we've kind of got a head start. So what I'd really like is for women to start seeing where their advantages are and start playing to them, as opposed to sort of looking for the disadvantages, which I think is a bit demoralising. And I would expand that out to this isn't just a gender conversation. This is every single human being. Their point of difference might actually be their greatest advantage. And let's just flip the thinking a little bit so that we can truly celebrate differences, as opposed to still secretly thinking that they're a disadvantage for us.
One last question, which is along that line, but just kind of, because you gave me some stuff about the military which I wasn't aware of in terms of the equality stuff. Are they good at promoting themselves, the military, in terms of these sorts of areas, or do we as a general public, how we perceive it to be, is very, very different from the rest? That's
a great question. I mean, we're not really commercially minded in the military. We don't understand marketing and selling, really. We've got a media section, but that's it. They're the media section.
Right.
And they're the ones that sort of hover around trying to get photographs, and we all go, "Oh no, we don't want to be on Facebook, or we don't want to be in the paper because we get fined a crate of beer." So I think we're probably quite scared of that, and also we can get it really badly wrong, and it can cause reputational damage. So, and I'm sure every organisation will go through the same thing. The military's not special in that regard, but we're probably more naive than some, because also there's a security element to what we can share. So a lot of people kind of go, "Can I say that?"
Yeah.
So we could probably learn from other industries on that, on how to be a little bit better at marketing ourselves. And it's an uncomfortable idea, isn't it? Nobody wants to be seen as marketing themselves, but the truth is we all are, right? So
So true. Listen, Sarah, thanks so much for your time today. Went through so many different subjects, but I really appreciate it.
Yeah, loved it.
And love chatting as always.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks.